Is this the worst human being ever? He just watched as a poor little boy broke his arm. You see, every afternoon as they returned from school, the children loved to play in a certain garden. It was a large and beautiful place with soft green grass, flowers blooming across the ground, and 12 peach trees that blossomed in spring with pink and pearl-colored flowers, and in autumn it bore rich, heavy fruit. Birds filled the branches and sang so sweetly that the children often paused in their games just to listen. "How happy we are here," they would cry to one another. But the garden belonged to a man who had been away for 7 years visiting a friend, the Cornish ogre. When at last he returned, he found the children playing there. "What are you doing here?" he shouted. The children scattered in fear. In the chaos, one small boy tripped on a root and fell hard to the ground. He cried out in pain as his arm twisted beneath him. There was a snapping sound. His friends rushed to help, carrying him off to the village doctor. The man, however, looked on coldly, unmoved by the child's injury. "This is my garden," he muttered. "My own garden. I will allow nobody to play in it but myself." And so he built a high wall around it and set up a notice board. "Trespassers will be caught and punished." He was indeed a selfish man. Now the poor children had nowhere else to play. The roads were dusty and full of stones. They would wander sadly around the high walls and whisper, "How happy we were there." Then as the days went by, spring came, and all the country bloomed with blossoms and birdsong, except in the selfish man's garden. There, it was still winter. No children played there, so the birds would not sing, and the trees forgot to blossom. A single flower poked its head above the grass, but when it saw the sign on the wall, it slipped back underground and slept. Only the snow and frost were pleased. "Spring has forgotten this garden," they laughed. "So we will live here all year round," the snow and frost said. The snow spread her white cloak across the grass, and the frost painted the trees silver. They soon invited the north wind, who came roaring about, blowing down everything in its way. He declared it a delightful place and invited the hail. The hail came every day for hours, rattling on the roof until the slates cracked. "I cannot understand why spring is so late in coming," grumbled the selfish man as he sat by his window, staring out at the cold white garden. But neither spring nor summer came. Autumn brought golden fruit to every other garden except his. "He is too selfish," Autumn said, and passed him by. So it was always winter in the selfish man's garden. One morning, as he lay awake in bed, he heard the most beautiful sound. It was only a little bird singing outside his window, but it had been so long since he had heard a bird's song that it seemed to him like the music of the king's musicians. The hail stopped dancing for a second. The north wind grew quiet, and through the open window drifted a delicious perfume. "I believe spring has come at last," said the selfish man. He leapt from his bed and looked out. Through a small hole in the wall, the children had crept back into the garden. They were sitting in the branches of the trees, and the trees, overjoyed to have them again, had covered themselves in blossoms. Birds flew about, singing with delight, and flowers laughed up through the green grass. It was a lovely sight. But in one corner, it was still winter. There stood a little boy, so small he could not climb into the tree he wanted. He wandered around it, weeping bitterly, while the tree, still wrapped in frost, bent its branches down to help him. But he was too tiny. The man's heart melted. "How selfish I have been," he said. "Now I know why spring would not come here. I will put that poor little boy into the tree, and then I will knock down the wall. My garden shall be the children's playground forever." Truly sorry for what he had done, he went down and quietly into the garden. But the children, seeing him, were frightened and ran away, and with them went the spring. Only the little boy did not run, for his eyes were full of tears, and he did not see the man coming. The man lifted him gently and set him in the tree. At once, the tree broke into blossom, and the birds sang again. It was the same boy who had once fallen and broken his arm, now healed. The selfish man's eyes filled with tears. "Please forgive me," he whispered. The little boy smiled and flung his arms around him, and when the other children saw the change in him, they returned, and with them came the spring. Laughter and song filled the garden. The villagers, at first cautious, soon joined in. The selfish man was selfish no more. His garden had become everyone's garden, a place of warmth, joy, and new life.